The sun rose over the small village of Ogura in Delta State. Birds chirped on the mango trees, and the streets slowly came alive with the sounds of people getting ready for their day. Inside a tiny one-room house with faded pink walls, 17-year-old Esther carefully folded her mosquito net and began sweeping the floor. Her mother, Mama Esther, was already outside boiling rice and beans for the customers who would soon arrive at their small roadside food stand. Esther walked quickly, humming a soft tune as she cleaned. She knew that after helping her mother, she still had to get ready for school. Her final secondary school exams were coming soon, and everyone knew how brilliant she was. Teachers often praised her in front of the whole class, saying she had the brightest mind they'd seen in years. But Esther never let that get to her head. She remained quiet, respectful, and obedient to her mother. Every day after school, she helped wash plates, carry pots, and serve customers with a smile. At night, when the village went quiet and most people went to bed, Esther sat on the floor with her books and a small lantern, reading until her eyes felt heavy. Her mother watched her sometimes and sighed. Life hadn't been easy since Esther's father passed away when she was just 8. He had been a kind man who worked as a fisherman, but one stormy night, he went out to the river and never came back. Since then, Mama Esther had done everything she could to raise her daughter alone. Despite the struggle, their bond was strong, built on love, sacrifice, and silent dreams. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months. Life didn't get easier for Esther and her mother. Every morning came with new worries: what to cook, how to afford food items, and how to manage school fees. But Mama Esther was strong. Even when her back ached or her eyes felt heavy with sleep, she didn't stop working. There were times when money was so tight that she had to take a loan from the Women's Cooperative Society in the village. It was a small group of market women who helped each other during hard times. Mama Esther didn't like borrowing, but she had no choice. It was either the loan, or Esther would be sent home again. The borrowed money helped. It covered the school fees for that term and even allowed Mama Esther to buy one of the textbooks Esther had been missing. She had skipped meals some days just to save enough for that book. Finally, the time came for Esther to write her final exams. Her hands shook as she held her pen on the first day. Not because she was afraid of the questions, but because she wanted so badly to make her mother proud. She wrote each paper with all her heart. She remembered everything she had studied, those long nights by the lantern, the quiet mornings before school, the whispered prayers before each subject. When the last paper was done, she walked out of the classroom and stood under a tree. She didn't shout. She didn't dance. She just closed her eyes and whispered, "Thank you, God. Please, let it be good." The holidays came quickly after that. But while most of her classmates traveled to visit family or relaxed at home, Esther had only one plan: to help her mother. She woke up early every morning, sometimes even before the birds began to sing. She helped carry pots to the roadside stand, fetch water from the nearby tap, clean the bench where customers would sit, and sometimes went to the market alone when her mother was too tired. She learned how to cook large pots of jollof rice, beans, and egusi soup. She learned how to greet customers politely, how to serve food with a smile, and how to keep the change safe in the small red plastic bowl they used as a cash box. Deep inside, Esther's heart beat faster each day. What if her results weren't good enough? What if all the sacrifices were not enough? She didn't say it out loud, but the questions lived in her mind every second. Still, she worked harder. The shop became her new classroom during the holiday. Every plate she washed, every customer she served, she saw it as part of the journey to something bigger. She was waiting for the day the results would come out. Waiting to know if her dreams would begin or end before they even started. Months passed slowly. Each day felt like a whole week as Esther waited for her exam results. She tried to hide her nervousness by staying busy. But deep down, she was counting the days. Then one hot afternoon, As the sun burned bright in the sky and the smell of fried plantains filled the air, Esther came running down the dusty road, holding a white paper tightly in her hand. Her heart beat so fast, she thought it might jump out of her chest. Her eyes sparkled with tears, tears not of sadness, but of pure joy. "Mama! Mama!" she shouted as she reached the shop. "They've released the results. I passed." Mama Esther dropped the spoon she was using to stir the soup and ran to her daughter. "You passed?" she asked, breathless. Esther nodded, smiling from ear to ear. "I passed with flying colors, Mama. I got all my papers. Even maths and English." For a moment, Mama Esther didn't say a word. Then, suddenly, her eyes filled with tears. She pulled Esther into a tight hug, rocking her gently like she was still a little child. They sat under the umbrella together, holding hands. But even in her joy, a heavy thought sat quietly in Mama Esther's heart. She looked at her daughter, so full of hope and light, and then looked down at her worn slippers. A deep sigh escaped her lips. "I don't know how I'll send you to the university," she said softly. "We don't have the money. I'm so proud of you, but I'm scared." Esther squeezed her mother's hand. "Don't cry, Mama. You've brought me this far. God will make a way." Just then, a deep voice came from behind them. "Who is making my sister cry?" They turned and saw a tall, dark-skinned man in a white shirt and jeans, smiling widely. It was Uncle Ben, Mama Esther's younger brother who lived in the city. He usually visited the village during holidays to see them and bring some gifts. Everyone in the neighborhood liked him because he was friendly and always laughed a lot. "Ben," Mama Esther called, quickly wiping her tears. "You came at the right time." He hugged them both and sat down. "What's going on?" Esther couldn't wait to tell him. "Uncle Ben, I passed my exams. I passed all of them." Uncle Ben's eyes lit up. "You what?" "Esther, that's amazing. Come here, champion." He lifted her off the ground in a big bear hug, laughing out loud. "That's what I'm talking about." They celebrated with cold malt drinks and meat pies he had brought from the city. That evening, after closing the shop, they sat outside the house under the stars. The night air was cool, and the sound of crickets filled the silence. Mama Esther finally told her brother the truth, how she had been taking loans to keep Esther in school, how proud she was, and how sad she felt about not being able to send her daughter to the university. Uncle Ben listened quietly, his face serious now. When she finished, he turned to Esther. "My dear, you've done your part. Now let's see what we can do to help you keep going." And that was the moment everything began to change. The days that followed were filled with laughter, joy, and silent prayers of thanks. Uncle Ben had made a promise that changed everything. One evening, as the orange sunset bathed the sky in soft colors, he turned to Esther and said, "My dear niece, I see how hard you've worked. You've made us all proud. I'm going to sponsor your university education. Whatever course you want to study, medicine, law, accounting, you'll do it. I'll take care of everything." For a moment, Esther couldn't breathe. She blinked, thinking maybe she had heard wrong. "Emmy," she asked in a whisper. "You'll sponsor me?" Uncle Ben smiled and placed his hand gently on her shoulder. "Yes, you've earned it." Esther jumped up and hugged him tightly, her heart bursting with joy. Mama Esther covered her mouth with her hands, tears rolling freely down her cheeks. "Ben, thank you," she said with a trembling voice. "God will bless you for this. You've done more than I could ever ask." That holiday season became the most beautiful time they had shared as a family. Every evening after closing the shop, they sat outside the house with bowls of roasted corn and groundnuts, talking, laughing, and telling old stories from when Esther was little. For the first time in a long while, Esther felt truly happy and hopeful. She could see her future opening up, one where her dreams could actually come true. As the holiday came to an end, Uncle Ben called them together one night. "I think it's time," he said. "Esther will come back to the city with me. We'll start her admission process, and she can stay with me until school resumes." Esther's heart skipped. She was excited but also nervous. She had never left the village before. But Uncle Ben's voice was calm and reassuring. "I'll bring her back during breaks," he promised. "Anytime she's free, she'll come home to visit. She's not leaving you, sister. She's just going to chase her future." Mama Esther nodded slowly. "Go, my child," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "This is the moment we've prayed for." That night, Esther sat quietly under the stars, looking up at the moon. She whispered a prayer, not just of thanks, but of strength, for the new journey ahead. The morning sun rose gently over the village, casting a golden glow on the rooftops. Esther stood beside her mother, her small traveling bag in one hand and a heart full of emotions in the other. It was the day she had been waiting for, but saying goodbye wasn't easy. Mama Esther hugged her tightly, not wanting to let go. "Remember everything I taught you," she whispered. "Be respectful. Be focused. And don't forget to pray." Esther nodded, fighting back tears. "I'll make you proud, Mama. I promise." Uncle Ben stood nearby, giving them a quiet moment before he opened the car door. Esther stepped in, waved one last time, and then they drove off, the dusty village road slowly fading behind them. The journey to Abuja was long, but Esther didn't sleep. She sat by the window, watching the world change as they drove. The small houses turned into tall buildings, the muddy roads became smooth-tarred highways, and everywhere she looked, there were lights, signboards, and cars, so many cars. Her eyes grew wide with wonder. She had never seen anything like it. Skyscrapers stood proudly in the sky, glass windows shining like diamonds in the sun. Big supermarkets, traffic lights, overpasses, it all felt like she was in a movie. When they got to his house, Esther couldn't believe her eyes. It wasn't a mansion, but it was beautiful. The compound was clean, with flowers planted near the gate. The house had cream-colored walls, wide windows, and a small fountain in front that made soft splashing sounds. Inside, everything sparkled. The floor was tiled, the furniture soft and shiny, and the air smelled like lemon. Esther stood at the doorway, afraid to step in with her dusty sandals. He took her upstairs and opened the door to a room painted soft pink. There was a bed with clean white sheets, a reading table, and even a small shelf filled with books. "This is your room," he said. "You can arrange it however you want. If you need anything, just tell me." Esther walked in slowly, touching the bed, then the table. It felt like a dream. She sat down and smiled, really smiled. "Thank you, Uncle," she whispered. Uncle Ben patted her shoulder. "You're welcome, Esther. You deserve it. Now, let's settle in. You have a big future ahead of you." And that was how Esther's new life in the city began. Everything was new. Everything was different. But deep in her heart, she felt ready. Ready for whatever came next. Months rolled by in a blink. Esther had now settled into life in the city. She had registered for JAM, the exam that would decide her future, and she gave it everything she had. When the exam day came, her hands trembled as she walked into the hall. But she remembered her mother's words, "Be brave, my child. You are stronger than you think." She breathed deeply and focused. She answered each question carefully. And when it was over, she walked out with her heart full of hope. Weeks later, the results were released.